Honor that you're joining me on this, the first day of live radio on Black History Month. My very special guest does not need an introduction, but I want to give him a very brief one. I believe he's the preeminent voice in African American leadership and civil rights today. His voice has been heard from one end of the country to the other. He's been in the Oval Office, 4, 5, maybe 6 United States presidents. He's known every civil rights leader and worked with them over the course of the last 4 decades, maybe even 5 decades. I'm proud to call him my uncle. And I want to welcome him to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. And I'm very proud to be with you. And I always have said you are the brightest and most, in my opinion, most prepared person that has entered American politics in the last half century. What you did in Congress, I think, is underspoken. And the fact that you work and help to guide a lot of what we do in National Action Network is a real honor to us.
Reverend Sharpton, thank you very much. And I want to personally take this opportunity to thank you for your advocacy in the previous administration for my unconditional forgiveness. I don't want to spend any time on that because we've got more issues that confront our community that need to hear your voice. Reverend Sharpton, this is African American History Month, and we find ourselves at a very interesting crossroads between that which Dr. King fought for, and certainly your mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson, fought for, and you continue to fight for, with an administration whose executive orders seem to be targeted directly at all of that work, at all of that legacy. And of course, the most recent outrageous claim that somehow diversity, equity, and inclusion could be responsible for the great tragedy that confronted our nation with the most recent airline tragedy on the Potomac. I'd like your thoughts on where we are, where we're going against the backdrop of our history. Reverend Al Sharpton.
Well, let's look at our history. It is Black History Month. If we look at the fact that we were brought here at 1619, we were here before that, but they started at 1619, and we were enslaved in 1619 before there was a Declaration of Independence. A lot of us missed that they didn't do the Declaration of Independence till 1776. Which means that we were already over 150 years serving and not getting paid before they even told King George they wanted to be independent. We built the country. We went from there into finished until 246 years of slavery before 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln signed reluctantly, got freed, went through 12 years of Reconstruction, then 100 years of Jim Crow. Now, when we get there, we start changing laws because all of what we suffered, slavery, illiteracy, it was illegal for us to read and write. It was illegal for us to marry. It was illegal for us to name our children after ourselves. We didn't even know our name. You know the story of how a newspaper in New York found out the name of my great-grandfather. He was owned by Alexander Sharpton and his wife, Anna Thurman, who was a cousin of Strom Thurmond. So Sharpton is not my name. Sharpton was the property name of my great-grandfather. It is in that context that we fought, and Brown versus Board of Education was the first cycle, 54, beginning of that cycle. 55, the Montgomery bus boycott after Rosa Parks, who broke the law by sitting in the front of the bus and refusing to give up her seat, leading into 64 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voting Rights Act. Now, affirmative action, which came 7 years after the Voting Rights Act, was written by a Black conservative named Arthur Fletcher, who was the Undersecretary of Labor in the Nixon administration. And the idea of affirmative action was the only way Blacks are going to catch up is we must equalize the yards that we took from them. So if you're having a 100-yard fight and you started 50 yards up, I started 0. In order to make the race fair, you got to give me my 50 yards. That was affirmative action. That was Nixon's program. Now, DEI came out of that. One of the reasons that we've been so involved in National Action Network is DEI started, it was kind of passive. It gained a lot of traction when corporations got so nervous during the George Floyd movement, which we were on the forefront of. I preached George Floyd's funerals. We led the marches. They said they just start throwing money at everything. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Trump is reversing that, making everything DEI. The outright cold, calculated, and insensitive thing he did last week was before they even took the bodies out of the Potomac River. He said this was DEI. It ended up there was no blacks involved in any part of this. The pilots weren't black. The young lady that was in the air control was not black. But he just wanted America to say the blacks did it. And the fallout from that, Jesse, is that black pilots walking through airports, going to their designated planes. People are looking at them, oh, should we get on that plane? There might be a DEI pilot. What the level of fear and the level of insult that we had to endure just over the weekend shows you where we are. So what we've said, trained by Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr., is that we cannot legislate if we're not the majority, but we can certainly discipline our dollars. So
Reverend Sharpton?
If these companies want to say we're ending DEI, you don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion, then you should have a diverse consumer base.
Reverend Sharpton, this is Jesse Jackson Jr., and you're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest, when we come forward, is the preeminent leader in civil rights of this time, Reverend Al Sharpton.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Gain Super Flings are here to take your laundry to the next level.
Talking about Gain Super Flings. Super-sized laundry packs. These things are huge. Super fresh, super clean. Gain Super Flings.
Gain Super Flings laundry packs have 4 times the Oxy cleaning power and 3 times the Febreze freshness versus Gain Original Liquid.
Super fresh, super clean. Gain Super Flings.
Gain Super Flings for next level laundry.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and this is the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest on this opening series for Black History Month is the Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton, welcome back.
Thank you.
Reverend Sharpton, no one has fought Donald Trump longer and more consistently than you have. From the Central Park Five to housing discrimination in New York City to covenants disrespecting and disallowing blacks to live in his properties, a term as president of the United States, and now a second term as president of the United States. How do you resist Donald Trump? There's a lot of talk about boycotting this, boycotting that, but this is the president of the United States leading the charge against a major policy initiative that was a cornerstone of the civil rights movement. Your thoughts?
I think I have to go fight him on several fronts. One, we are engaged in a 90-day study. We're about 12 days in on which companies we can methodically have boycotts and be successful. I was raised, trained in breadbasket. You can't just jump out and call a boycott and lose, because you will then empower your opponent. We've got to see who has the larger consumer base in our community and who has a small margin of profit, so we can take action and have enough people stay out of consuming them long enough to say they can operate in the red. That's one. That's the economics. The second time, we need to start rallying now and our locales to say any company that drops DEI in their corporate suite or in their corporate edict should not be able to use taxpayer contracts, taxpayer funding. We have public officials at a local level. So fine, you can drop DEI, but you can't use contracts with taxpayers in Chicago to have a biased agenda. Same thing in New York, LA and all. So we need to organize in the public sector and the private sector, and then prepare for the midterm elections next year.
Reverend Sharpton, let me just offer a critique and get your feedback. Whenever we as African Americans fight, we almost always win. We won after Emmett Till's death in 1955, and Rosa Parks sat down in 1955, and Dr. King came to her rescue, and Dr. King gave his speech in 1963, along with the intermittent students and other activities that were taking place across the country that led Johnson, after the death of Kennedy, to sign the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Of course, that act led to civil rights and disabilities, civil rights for the LGBTQ community, civil rights for women, civil rights for immigrants, civil rights after we fought for ourselves led to civil rights for everybody. It seems to me that on this question of DEI, it is fighting for everybody, but our demand as African Americans has always been for our fair share. When we fight for our fair share, well, everybody else can benefit. Here come the disabled for their fair share, and here come women for their fair share. It seems to me that DEI is not our language. I can't find it in a single thing Frederick Douglass fought for, W.B. Du Bois fought for. Dr. King ain't never used the word DEI, and we just started using the word DEI. Help me here, Reverend. Help me.
No, I think the history, as you said it, is absolutely 100% correct. And I think that they created DEI as a label, and most people don't even know what it is. They just know the three letters, and they create it so they can demonize it. Just like in the middle of during the George Floyd movement, somebody came up and said, oh, they want to defund the police. We never said that. And we never said DEI. We never said defund the police. We said correct the police. So one of the things that you can never do is give them the power of definition. Your father taught me when I was a kid, whoever defines you can confine you. We can't let them define this. This is not about DEI. This is about our fair share of what is owed because you discriminated against us in the marketplace. And we're protecting our interests, and in protecting that, we make alliances with others who have also suffered the same thing. This is not a black issue. They talked about people that had been in many ways abused as women, in many ways abused as LGBTQ, the disabled. The term dwarf was used. So we must all fight and come up together. And if enough of us decide to withdraw dollars after a strategic study, then we can make major impact. And if we can make one or two major examples, the rest will fall in line. Donald Trump cannot call his Senate Majority Leader Thune and make us spend money somewhere, or Johnson in the House. So you cannot let your opponent dictate the ring you're going to fight in. We need to have a ring that's large enough for us to be able to swing and get our punches in.
Reverend Sharpton, obviously there have been significant changes in light of the election of Donald Trump. In fact, some of the changes began occurring when Joe Biden withdrew his candidacy and Kamala Harris eventually stepped forward and secured the Democratic nomination. What adjustments are or must take place for our nation's civil rights movements or civil rights organizations in the present era?
I think that the civil rights movement must first define that it is not here as social service agents, but social justice agents.
I like that.
Some of us cannot be funded by government that we're going to fight. Some of us cannot be aligned with the private sector. They can come to our events, they can do that, but to be able to be dependent on them to cover our budgets, we cannot do that if we're going to fight for freedom. So we have the freedom fighters lane that civil rights leaders, that's why the Black church, which was always independently funded by its parishioners, usually was the bedrock of the civil rights movement coming out of slavery. We didn't have anything other than our ability to convene. That's A. We then need to complement those that are in the legislature and then complement those that are in business. But it must come from us having people free enough to fight so the business people get the contracts and the legislators can get reelected. When you look at what's happening in California, I'm going Thursday to do the memorial services for 4 Black families in Altadena. When we look at the fact that Karen Bass, the mayor there who they're beating up on, well, she was outspent 10-1 in the LA mayor's race, but won anyway because the community rallied behind her. That is the best of our struggle, and that's what we've got to duplicate now. The problem is, and we faced it before, is you can't have people sponsor and impose leadership that is not grounded in our community and does not know what to do, and they're not committed to a strategy that would empower us.
I really appreciate you saying that. In other words, some of our organizations run the risk of singing unfamiliar songs, unfamiliar freedom songs, because some of their programs are so heavily dependent upon the federal government. And we're also looking now at some states, for example, that are now echoing President Donald Trump's attack on civil rights. For example, the governor of Indiana, for the first time in a number of years, has now not included the only African-American predominantly serving university, Martin University, in Indiana in his budget. Reverend Sharpton, based upon your experience, do you think that land grant institutions, loans and grants that we fought for over the years to the medical schools, Morehouse School of Medicine, Meharry School of Medicine, Drew School of Medicine, Howard University School of Medicine, the research dollars that address the disparities in our community could in fact be jeopardized under Trump's scrubbing of programs that appear on their face to only be helping African Americans and minorities, but are actually following good science to address some of the disparities that exists and are unique to us?
Not only do I think they're threatened, I think they'll be targeted because he's playing to a crowd that he will not be able to deliver for them. So he has to blame the other, and we're the other. So the reason why inflation is going up is not because I'm threatening these tariffs. It's the other. We're giving these land grant universities money. It's the other. He said today now that he's going after South Africa because they are taking white farmers' land. If he can keep the distraction of other at our expense, then he gets through social policies that helps his billionaire friends, giving them tax cuts while we're getting inflation, while he's arguing with Trudeau and arguing with Mexico. It's a shell game, and we've got to expose it and be wise enough to not be tricked to look under the wrong shell.
Reverend Sharpton, your concerns and thoughts about the weaponization of the Justice Department with respect to media and weaponization of the Justice Department with respect to the president's so-called enemies list, and the possibility that the Justice Department itself could be turned on civil rights organizations. We've seen that before.
We've seen that before, and we would be wise to study how we dealt with it before. We kept going stronger. Dr. King and those around him were surveilled and targeted. Your father and others, I would argue you were targeted. And we never stopped fighting. You will never get mercy out of people that are after you. When you see the weaponization of this Justice Department, where they're going to come in and he say that they're going after people, investigating people that investigated who went on the Capitol grounds of the United States government and beat policemen up. I mean, think about what we're saying. You're going to tell law enforcement, I want to investigate you saying that you assaulted law enforcement that we have on videotape, and now you're the suspect. I mean, it would be ludicrous if it wasn't true. This is how far we're gone. They've totally eradicated the Civil Rights Division in the Justice Department, flipped it over, and now they're saying we're going to investigate those that are discriminating in the ways that we are going to redefine discrimination. So this battle, Jesse, is not just about an election cycle. This is like when we dealt with Andrew Johnson ending the Reconstruction era of Abe Lincoln. They are trying to have a backlash through Donald Trump's presidency that will try to wipe out the last 60 years of what we have had progress, incremental in some steps, major in others. Don't be deceived when he talks about he wants to release the FBI files of the assassination of Dr. King and John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. Well, they may want to release some embarrassing files and try to, in many ways, desecrate Dr. King's name, John Kennedy's name. We want to know all we want to know is the stuff that led to their assassination. But there could be a very sinister agenda here. And we've got to be very careful that they're playing one game and we're playing another.
Reverend Sharpton, we have about 3 minutes left in this segment, and therefore our final question, because we know that you're extremely busy. We've seen an attack on Karen Bass by members of Congress who want to condition federal funds for the Palisades and other areas affected by the fires. We believe because she's an African-American woman. Of course, she's not responsible for the wildfires. We've seen an attack in New York on Eric Adams. We're looking at members of Congress threatening to haul the mayor of the city of Chicago, African-American mayor, before congressional committees to get these guys caught up in testimony and contradictory statements. Your thoughts on the attack of Black elected officials that could be victims of that weaponization?
We must rally around them. We must let those that that have targeted them know that they are not in any way going to be alone. They've done that historically. When you look at, with this Black History Month, Marcus Garvey indicted for mail fraud. Adam Clayton Powell indicted for income tax. People don't want to talk about it. The first time Dr. King went to court, he was indicted for stealing the money out of the Montgomery Improvement Association. Luckily, was acquitted. So it goes on and on. So either all Black leaders and then Black elected officials are crooks, or there is a pattern of coming after us. And I think that the only way that we can sustain it is to have people tough enough to take the shots and the people rally behind them, knowing they're really being sought after because they stood up for you. People always say to me, "Reverend Al, they're always after you," because I'm always after them. Nobody's after you. You laying home in the bed eating some chocolate chip cookies and drinking milk. Those of us that get out here, they're going to come after, but some of us can't help it.
Reverend Sharpton, we have about 1 minute before the hard break. Please offer us some hope. Give us some words and some advice to inspire us on into the break.
Dr. King said, only when it gets dark can we see the light. It's dark. Some of us can see the light. Some of us lifted our heads from the ground to look at the light in the sky. And the light is that right will overpower wrong if we stand up. And standing up now is the order of the day.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest to open up our Black History Month series is the Reverend Al Sharpton, the president of the National Action Network. We need to support his organization. We need to call the National Action Network. Reverend Sharpton, give us a quick number.
1-877-626-4651 or go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net.
We're going to have to support our own. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and you're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is vowing to fight Trump's cuts to federal programs in the funding battle, warning of a shutdown. Democrats plan legislation, legal action, and messaging efforts to counter Trump's policies on Medicaid, immigration, and federal workforce changes. President Trump says Elon Musk needs White House approval for any actions, including firing staff. He insists Musk cannot access payment systems unless the White House allows it. Egg prices have surged 50% in a year, now averaging $5.29 per dozen. Experts blame the rise on bird flu, which has killed over 13 million hens since December 2024. And Beyonce is launching the Cowboy Carter and the Rodeo Chitlin Circuit Tour this summer following her Grammy win. Kicking off April 28th, it will stop in major cities like Los Angeles, New York City, Houston, and London. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Choking is the 4th leading cause of accidental deaths. LifeVac is a life-saving airway clearance device which has saved over 3,000 lives. Go to lifevac.com and enter promo code LIFE to save 20% to secure your home kit today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers' new star, Luka Doncic, arrived in Los Angeles Sunday night. Doncic was part of a 3-team trade Saturday that sent Anthony Davis to the Dallas Mavericks. The Lakers aren't sure when Doncic will be able to play. The Lakers played the Clippers Tuesday and Golden State on Thursday. Doncic hasn't played since Christmas Day because of a strained calf muscle. Doncic is a 5-time first-team All-NBA selection, but behind the scenes in Dallas, he had a reputation for poor conditioning and bad eating habits. NBA sources say the lack of focus and taking care of his body is one of the reasons the Mavericks were willing to trade Doncic. The Lakers might be considering other moves before Thursday's trade deadline. They need to come up with an impact player in the middle. It will be very difficult to replace the production they got from AD on both ends of the court. More to come on this situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. Sign up for Notify LA on your phone to get fire danger alerts and updates, or check on lafd.org. The Watch Duty app is free and provides wildfire maps and updates in real time. Keep your gas tank full and plan your route in case you have to leave the area. City and county officials are urging you to pack a go bag so you can be ready to leave your home quickly in case of an evacuation order. Your go bag should include a couple of days of clothing, copies of your important documents and ID, money, insurance information, your medications, electronic devices, batteries, chargers, a small radio, and emergency contacts. If you receive an evacuation order, gather your loved ones, grab your bag, your pet food, and leave immediately. For information on shelters for your pets or even your family, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide. Wearing a mask outside will help protect you from smoke, toxic fume, and particulate matter. If you don't need to go out, it's best to stay home with the windows closed. Getting to know your neighbors is a great way to stay safe, stay connected, and share resources. And Angelinos are stepping up to help, so reach out and find the assistance you need. Mutual Aid LA Network is constantly updating a Google Sheet with mutual aid resources. You can find it at tiny.cc-malan-fire. The earlier you make a plan, the better off you'll be when every second counts. Praying for LA, preparing, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. and welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Wow, we just had a master's class in Black history, if you were paying attention. I want to use some of this time to unpack it. The first thing that I heard from Reverend Sharpton in his thinking was a timeline to my first question. And I really appreciated that because in 30 minutes, he walked through nearly 400 years of American history if you were paying attention. He went back even a little further. He said, we came to these shores in 1619, but we were already here. He said, but we were already here. Meaning he understands that the slave trade began as early as 1441 in Hispaniola, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, Brazil, Mexico, Panama. People of color, particularly African Cubans, African Jamaicans, African Haitians, African Brazilians, we are all the same people, separated by artificial barriers and nationalities. We were all part of the slave trade. 19 to 20 scared Africans arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 1620. When he said that, he said all of that. He just didn't take as much time as I just did to share with you and unpack what Reverend Sharpton said about Black history. There's a lot of strength in knowing our story. He then moved us forward to a timeline of the contributions of African Americans before Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, our so-called Independence Day. But let me remind you that from July 4th, 1776 until July 4th, 1863, there are 87 July 4ths. And we were not American citizens. We were Africans. We were an enslaved people. 87 July 4ths. White folks in the South celebrated their independence. White folks in the North celebrated their independence. I was watching Roots last night and Louis Gossett Jr. played fiddler And they sitting around the table, and there's an episode, I think, in season 1, maybe episode 3, where if you listen very carefully to what they're saying in Roots, they walk you through the timeline. He says when he's sitting there with Ma Bell and Kunta Kinte, he said, "Oh, the white folks, I'm so happy for them. They got their freedom. They got their freedom. They done won the war." He's talking about the Revolutionary War. "Oh, I sure feel good about the white folks getting their freedom. Happy 4th of July to them." That's exactly what he said. And we went on for another 87 July 4ths where we were not part of the celebration. Gettysburg, July 1st through July 3rd, 1863. More than 60,000 men, both Northerners and Southerners, lost their lives having met on that battlefield. But the North won. Just a few short months after the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation, the North won. Robert E. Lee was on the retreat. General Pickett's troops were slaughtered going up Pickett's Hill. General Longstreet disgraced. The Confederacy was on the retreat, working their way back to Appomattox Courthouse. November of that year, Abraham Lincoln would travel from Washington, D.C. to Gettysburg because July 4th, 1863 was unlike any other July 4th in American history. The first 87 July 4ths, we were in slavery. On that July 4th, America was becoming something new. Oh, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect, but there have been 161 July 4ths since July 4th, 1863, and every single one of them has been different. African American civil rights in 1964, that July 4th was different than July 4th, 1776, a new definition. The right to vote in 1965, that July 4th, the year I was born, was a different July 4th. When women got the right to vote, that was a different July 4th than July 4th, 1863. When 26-year-olds got the right to vote in the 1970s, that was a different July 4th than 1776. When Barack Obama became president of the United States, we celebrated 8 July 4ths very differently than we did the first 87 July 4ths. An African American was president of the United States. Our 4ths of July with Joe Biden, 4 of them were different than our 4ths of July under Andrew Johnson. How great we felt on that July 4th, that maybe on July 4th, 2025, Kamala Harris, the first African-American woman nominee of a major political party, could have been president of the United States. A different July 4th. America is becoming. America is not fixed in time. In fact, human history is a history of unfreedom, not a history of liberty. A lot of my brothers and sisters are America this, hell with America, damn America. You hear all kinds of stuff about America, but there is no alternative in human history. From 3150 BC, before Jesus of Nazareth, the history of the world was unfreedom, slavery, serfdom, peonage, indentured servitude. That is more a history of social organization than the idea of liberty. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of problems with the founding fathers, but there's no system like this on earth. This one we own. This one we've paid for with our blood, our sweat, our tears, and our soldiers. Our United States colored troop. We have been offended. We have been called names. We have been spat upon. We have been lynched. We have been disrespected and maltreated. We've been sent to prison. We've been dropped to the bottom of the Tallahatchie River. And yet we are still here. I don't know what you thought about God before you came to the program today, but you got to believe that God has a plan for us. It ain't no easy plan. It ain't no trip to Vegas. It ain't no lottery ticket. He's got a real plan for us. Howard Thurman says that Jesus' ministry is a ministry designed for people whose back is against the wall. And if you don't understand that ministry, then that's a different kind of Christianity that you're practicing. It is a ministry and a theology of the oppressed. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and this is our first of the Black History series.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
February is African American and Black History Month, and LA County Library is celebrating the voices and achievements of African Americans throughout the month. Join us for art workshops, family story times, and more. Revisit classic literature from African American authors and discover new favorites. It's a month of learning and fun for library lovers of all ages. Find out more at www.lacountylibrary.org and celebrate Black History Month at LA County Library.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like
inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their program. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. A further reflection upon Reverend Sharpton and what Reverend Sharpton had to share with us. He talked about not being emotional, but scientific when we consider these withdrawal of enthusiasm campaigns. I woke up this morning, went grocery shopping, saw the price of eggs, and I wanted to call for a boycott of eggs. That's my emotions. When my father launched boycotts, when Dr. King launched boycotts, our most successful boycotts were calculated strategic events for victory. The Montgomery Improvement Association made a calculated decision that if they could line up the preachers, line up the churches, line up the civic organizations, use the incident of Rosa Parks' arrest to galvanize the community, organize carpooling. If we're going to boycott the buses, somebody got to get us from one side of LA to the other side. Somebody's got to get us from one side of Atlanta to the other side of Atlanta. Someone has to get us from one side of Birmingham or Montgomery to the other side of Birmingham and Montgomery. We need carpooling if we're going to boycott the nearest grocery store. We need someone who can take our senior citizens to the next grocery store. Scientific, strategic, designed to galvanize national media attention to make a point. And when the boycott, if done strategically, is successful, our community gets to declare victory. And from that victory, we build upon other victories. Boycott everything. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's impossible to boycott everything. Strategic, decisive thinking, clarity of community and support. I heard that from Reverend Sharpton. That's a different kind of approach. It is a Kingian and a Jesse Jackson kind of approach to successful boycotts. I'm going to say something else that might be controversial on this show. We need a delegation of leaders with credibility to go meet with Donald Trump and spend some real time with him. If you take more than one person to the meeting, then everyone is watching what everyone's saying. And so that gives credibility and some kahunas to the leader who is speaking for the group. When I was in Congress, we used to go to meetings in the Oval Office or meetings in the Situation Room, the Cabinet Room with the President of the United States. And we'd have this big old Black Caucus agenda. We're going to talk about voting rights, civil rights, enforcement. We get there and it's only a 30-minute meeting. The first 20 minutes, everybody wants to take a picture with the president. 10 minutes left to talk. I've seen it myself. I grew up in a household where I watched a powerful Black man with credibility speak to other white folk. and stand taller than them and clearer than them with integrity, walk out of the meeting. And the same thing he said in the meeting is what he said to the media as he communicated what they were doing to the people. I've seen some folk go into some meetings, come out and say something totally different than what they went in there to talk about. I've lived to see that. I've seen powerful men in the presence of other powerful men, and I've seen men stand up, and I've seen some get particularly weak. I wouldn't let them represent me in a meeting. I believe in Reverend Sharpton. I believe in Reverend Barber. I believe in Mark Morial. I believe in Derek Johnson at the NAACP. I believe in the new leader of the National Council for Negro Women. Man, I heard that sister preach. Oh, no, she's not going backwards. This ain't just a meeting for anybody. Donald Trump will send plenty of blacks our way to tell us what they're doing. They real quiet right now. But they're going to come tell us why they canceling Black History Month. What they going to tell us? Why our medical schools are losing federal grants? What they going to tell us? They were so mad at Democrats. What they going to tell us? That somehow diversity, equity, and inclusion was responsible for what took place on the Potomac River? Well, what were they going to tell us? And Reverend Sharpton said something else. He said that there's a chilling effect. Some black pilots walking through airports, white folk don't want to get on their planes. Some of these Negroes been flying for 30 years, ain't never had an incident. But because the President of the United States used the occasion to suggest that we are incompetent and unqualified, because he doesn't know how to choose his words carefully, because he doesn't understand the connotation of the language and the denotation of words, and that words matter and that words can hurt people. He doesn't understand that. He's not clear on that. We're clear on that. We're clear on that because every opportunity that we get, we say a little poem. Sometimes we sing it, and it sounds something like this: lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. Ring together, both earth and heaven, with harmony of liberty. Let the rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. The first verse is about our liberty. But don't forget now, we got to sing a song full of the dark past, the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. And then that little part of the second stanza that it just melts me away. Stony the road we trod. Life ain't been no crystal stair. Bitter the chastening rod. Felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, we keep coming. We keep coming. Assassinate us. Bankrupt us. Put us out of our homes. We keep coming. But our feet are not weary, because we come to the place for which our fathers sighed. This is the part of the song we scat through. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out from our gloomy past, till we now stand at last where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. And then we pay respects to our Heavenly Father, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Happy Black History Month. I look forward to tomorrow's forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica,